Good morning, everyone. We are in video 8 of the Real Talk and Explanation of God and Sex, and we are at one of the concluding chapters, and the titling question is, why then did God give us such strong sexual desires, right? It's a burning question that I know I have had, and maybe you have had too. And so I want to kind of step back and take a look at God's creation, because sex is only one of many, many beautiful things God created so that we can experience His love. Of course, it's a very physical, tangible way for us to experience His love, but it's one of many. Think of something that moves your soul, right? It could be maybe a peaceful view from a mountain range, or for those of us in Ohio, maybe it's a walk through a cornfield, or maybe it's a melody of a really beautiful song that you love. Maybe it's Bruce Springsteen. Maybe it's a walk in the woods, a sunset on a beach, although those of us in Ohio certainly aren't going to get that on a normal day, but maybe if you're up by the lake. Maybe it's an incredible painting, a piece of art. It's a delicious meal, maybe an incredible rainbow. Maybe you love your dog, and just snuggling with your dog, it gives you so much peace and moves you and helps you to kind of come to the center of who you are. Maybe it's a call from an old friend. I know all of us have been benefiting, hopefully, from a little more time to make those calls now that we're all quarantined, right? For me, it's a horse ride. Growing up, I was the horse girl. I was always out in the barn. I loved spending time with my horse. And when I left for college, I didn't know how powerful and beautiful that time that I spent with my horse was until I couldn't anymore. And I remember kind of having to find a new way to find my center because I couldn't just go out to the barn when I was in college. For me, like, riding my horse, it's so peaceful, it's restful. We're walking through the woods. The phones are off. I can hear the birds chirping. I can hear the squirrels running around on the leaves on the woods ground. I can feel my horse's muscles underneath me as he walks, and hear his breath and smell his sweat and hay and the way he smells. It's just so peaceful, and like my body just takes a deep breath, and it's whether I could have put words to it then or now, I just feel just this peace of God's presence, right? That He's there, and it quiets the world around me enough to let Him come in. And so there's lots of different ways that God communicates that He loves us, and lots of different ways that through His creation, He allows us to experience His all-embracing love. And sex is one of them. Sex is a very, very powerful, tangible way that He gave us for us to physically experience His love. But there are many other ways too, and if we pay attention, we can see them all around us all day long. There's a popular Christian song by Hillsong. It's called "So Will I," and I love it. One of the verses says, "I can see your heart in everything you've made. If creation sings your praises, so will I." And I love that because it just helps bring out the fact that, God has created all these things to help us experience His love. Some of the verses say, "If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I." One of my favorite verses is, "If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I." If rocks can be a testament to God's love, how cool is that? How much more can I, the temple of the Holy Spirit, be a testament to God's love? And therefore, what I do with my body as the temple of the Holy Spirit, can draw me closer to God, or quite the opposite. Just like we talked in the video before, it can be very powerful, either direction of allowing us to experience God's love and creation and participate in it. Or when it's outside of God's design, it can, and we'll know it, we'll feel it, even if we can't put words to it. So everything in creation is meant to point us back to the love of God, and that includes our desires. One of our strongest desires being a sexual desire, right? And it's that desire is meant to help us recognize that nothing here on earth is going to satisfy us like the love of Christ. We have many desires. I have desire for chocolate all the time. Coffee. Here's a great example about desire, okay? I wake up in the morning and I am dying for a cup of coffee. Call me an addict, it's probably true. But after that first sip, the first sip is always so good. And then it's like every sip after that just kind of diminishes a little bit. And I spend all day long chasing how amazing the first sip was. Does anybody relate to this? Like, I'll get to the third cup. I know, I'm an addict. I get to the third cup and I'm like, this isn't as good as it was. And I keep going after it. But you know why? Because our earthly desires, coffee is good. Coffee is wonderful. And it's a gift from God for sure. But it's not going to satisfy me all the way. It's meant to point me to the fact that only God can desire me, can fulfill me completely, right? And that goes for any desire that we have, sexual included, where that desire is one that is strong and can be beautiful and point us to God, but it can never fully satisfy because only God can fully satisfy, right? I just had a thought I was going to share with you and I lost it. It's gone. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, our desires are an invitation to get a little taste of God's love here on earth and to then open up our desire to God and say, okay, God, I know this, for our silly example, this coffee is never going to fulfill me. So let me appreciate it for what it is, for the beauty that it is, and invite you into my heart and ask you to lead me closer to you so that I can fulfill my desires in you. And if you turn that to, that example, maybe to horse riding, right? Horse riding is a wonderful thing and it draws me closer to God. It's never going to fully satisfy, right? Only God is going to fully satisfy. So we are given strong desires, absolutely. Why? Because it helps draw us closer to God, but it's ultimately not God. Right? My coffee is not God. Horse riding is not God. Sex is not God. It's ultimately an icon, an example, a image of God's love, and it draws us closer to Him so that He can satisfy. Now, here on earth, we can, grow closer and closer to experiencing that, but we're ultimately headed towards heaven, which is complete unity with Him. And that's what our souls are pining for. That's what we're yearning for, right? So why did God give us strong sexual desires? Well, because through sex, when experienced as God designed it, we experience a very tangible example of God's immeasurable love for you and me. And our sexual desire is ultimately an incredible gift from God to experience the help of each other, right? Because God gave us a helper to suit us, to experience God's love here on earth. But it's ultimately pointing us to Him. So with that, I will conclude video number 8. And I'm so excited because the next video is the very conclusion that I've been talking about, that it is like the dessert of the whole thing. So I really hope you tune into video number 9. If you've skipped everything up till now, tune into video number 9. I think you're going to really find it to be just a beautiful testament to God's love for you. Okay, see you next time.